point of everything.
So you see, we're discussing in practical terms, trying to bring this down. And I like what Brother Leo, this last point he landed on, which is that how Raven and I turned around, right? We could have made that confrontational. Exactly. We could have, but we just said, come on in, speak your piece, tell us how we can reverse this situation. Now, I think there are some people who will take longer than others, but if we claim to be the ones who are woke, we have to have more patience. We have to say, listen, this thing is going to take a long time. And as I said, coming back to the point we started with reparations, I think, because I will leave on that point, I think reparations is a good idea, but you don't give up your day job in pursuit of said reparations, because like the young brother here said, I don't think we're going to get it. Because first of all, the minute they wouldn't even give you a proper apology. And I don't think I even want that, because you cannot draw me aside in 3 minutes to apologize for 300 years. It simply cannot be done. As Malcolm said, people's actions I believe in, not their words. That's what Brother Malcolm said. People's actions, I want to see real change in terms of how white supremacy deals with the rest of us, but in particular my people, because within the rest of us, according to the book by the Professor Chinwe, The West and the Rest of Us, within the wide net of the rest of us, we suffer from anti-blackness. Yes. So you even have other nations just only too recently freed themselves out of what you call being the developing South or the third world, and they are oppressing us. So it's as if their success is predicated on our diminution. So you have people who understand what they've done to their environment, like Malaysia. They've destroyed their rainforest through palm oil, deforestation to grow palm oil. They realized their mistake, and now what they're doing, they relocated their palm oil plantations to the Congo. And like Brother Leo said, we have venal politicians who will allow this to happen in the DRC or Congo, Brazzaville, or wherever it is, in order to be rich and put that money in the Swiss bank. Now, my point is, how do we get down to actual change? Every time we have a Thomas Sankara, they kill him. Every time we have a Patrice Lumumba, they kill him. It's easy for them to do it. We need the technology of the West, or so we think. So we are prepared to give them our coltan, our cobalt, our uranium, our copper for a song. We give it to them for nothing. We allow the destabilization of Eastern Congo in order to facilitate the extraction of these minerals that goes to the West. Now, you try to reverse that, and they will just take the most highly developed weapons that they have just come up with and give it to a rival and the opposition leader in return for a contract that those minerals should not stop flowing. How do you reverse that?
First off, you started off with the leader, right? What if this may sound really crazy, right? People correct me if I'm wrong, right? What if we don't have a leader and we have a code instead? Where we actually have a code in terms of how we actually could, what to actually follow.
You asked me a question, how do you enforce the code?
Through a book. Just straight up knowledge.
So you literally throw the book at the miscreants?
I'm just saying, there has to be.
I know I'm asking you hard questions.
I like the hard questions.
For the purposes of disclosure, I don't have the answers. I don't stand here like most people who pretend that they have the truth. I do not have the answer.
So the brother says use a code, right? They're saying, well, how do you enforce it? Well, what if you have institutions based upon the code? So in order to join these institutions, you have to agree to the actual code. Okay. So when you go off code, then you can be asked to leave.
Yeah.
So
what about when you get somebody, not just somebody, it's the country. America has refused to sign up to the ISIS. He said, no, sorry, you have a code, a global code. America says, no, none of it, we're not having it. What you going to do next?
Well, I'm assuming
we're bound by the code.
I think when you talk about code, you're talking about amongst the black collective, right?
Yeah, but when you try to expand the black collective, the black collectives in America, no, just over America. You have the black collective in South America. We spoke about Ecuador just now, and of course the African continent. So if you want to enforce the code, and I am all in favor of everything I've heard this evening so far, because I have nothing to offer. So but I'm turning these things around, trying to troubleshoot what I'm listening to. Now, if you have this code in countries that don't recognize the code, what's going to happen then?
What do they mean? Like,
Black people are everywhere.
Well, what activities are they doing when the code comes up? Because something must be happening in London and New York where black people are looking and they're saying, these black people are behaving a certain way, this looks appealing. It's the same thing with like, say, things like hip hop or jazz. People saw it, they thought, this looks appealing, let me do it, right? So when we're forming these concepts, the code has to be part of the concept. It has to be actually an intricate part of the actual thing we're doing. So if we're talking about institutions being built upon code, then in those codes is things like how we treat each other.
Yes.
So for example, let's say we make a building, right? It's called the black building, right?
Yes.
And it's in London. You go to the black building to learn. Now, if the code is you can't use derogative language, that means when you go to New York, you go, well, hold on, this was the actual code. It's built on this principle. When you watch the footage, you never saw the brothers in London do that. When you look to the ones in New York, they do that. So almost when it goes to Sudan, they swear it. You know what I mean? Is that kind of, how do you enforce any other idea?
It's difficult, but we could look at it as how to basically deal with problems with, like, collectively, what are the common factors, right, in the black community as a collective that we basically have. Really, within, say for example, within that book or say for that code, those put basically solutions in regards to dealing with that, maybe even different languages. Let's say we keep to start there, like different languages. Obviously, not every black person speaks English, right?
Well, there's a lot of Pan-Africans. What they're saying is everyone should speak their own language, but there needs to be an agreed upon language that everyone speaks. So, for example, if a Jamaican meets someone from France, one speaks French, one speaks English or Patois, but they both speak maybe Kiswahili, maybe Yoruba. I think Kiswahili is the most popular. It's the most intact African language to have. So that was pushed forward. So maybe African schools. But before we get there, maybe agreeing the topics that is taught in these buildings, these schools, these institutions, right? So I think language is one. I think financial literacy might be a good one. Right? Now obviously, if you're talking about something that's going to different places, then obviously certain topics will jump off because certain lands won't necessarily have any use for certain kind of topics, right? But if we start London as a base, what is necessary for London youth to learn, the black London youth? I would say language. I would say financial literacy. You said interaction skills between black people and family groups, and then if you want to include polygamy, like
and mental health as well.
Yeah, mental health as well, right? You know what I mean? So these are
starting and womanhood as well.
There you go. But see, so all that seems to go to like a kind of social class. Like, is there like what's that social called?
Social economic.
Is it no? I think. Is there any kind of topic today that people can take that based with like how people interact? It's not humanity, is it?
It was
social dynamics.
Is it sociology?
It wasn't sociology. Citizenship. We're coming up with the actual name.
Well, maybe we have to come up with
civics.
Yeah, it might be civics. I'm not sure. But that Afro-based version of that, right? How to interact. Now within that, we've got all those things you're talking about, as well as if you are going to practice polygamy, or what? First of all, studying why it's done, and if you are doing it, how it can be done officially around other communities, right?
Well, I mean, to go down that rabbit hole a little, you have a situation in America where so many black males are being killed.
Yes.
There is an argument for it, except that it clashes with the modern concept of feminism. Do you see? Now you've got to teach them. You can't. Some of the people with the most money who will contribute to the funding of your school will be black feminists. What you going to do then? What about the ping pong?
What's wrong?
Black feminists will not even entertain the concept of polygamy.
Okay.
They will not even entertain this discussion.
So how RE works in schools is RE doesn't teach people what faith to be. They teach about the faith.
Yeah.
So I think when you talk about this stuff, you're more so teaching how other cultures deal with it.
Right.
But I think when it comes to polygamy, I think one of the fundamental things that I think maybe we agree on is if a man takes a woman, a woman takes a man, before they get married, they agree, can I take another woman, can I not? So before you even start, you understand where the mindset is both. So that might be a good starting point. So if a woman is not a polygynist and she doesn't want to engage, she lets the partner know that. So that way you can minimize the anxiety.
If I may quick, what if she says this? We have a considerable amount of money because usually I don't want to say what I was going to say. I was going to say something really stupid, but I realize it's not intelligent enough to say. That the gay community has more money because they don't have children, but then they adopt children, so that's not true. But it was felt for a long time that the pink pound was powerful because they didn't have children, so they had the ability to save and work longer hours and save and invest more. Okay. Well, suppose we have such a constitution saying we would like to contribute to said school, but not with that ethos of polygyny in it. We won't contribute to that school. So, and I like this part of the discussion because we have a belief. I'm going to throw a little Islam in here. You know, everything has a little bit of Islam from me. There is a hadith which says a person went out, a jinn went out to do evil in the land. And Shaitan said, what did he do? He said, maybe I burned down Grenfell Tower. And Shaitan said, yeah. Another one went out, he did something like he dried up a lake. And, you know, and Shaitan said, he went back to the big devil and said, what do you do? I dried up a lake, everybody died of thirst. Nah. One came back and said, I broke up a family.
Yes.
I broke up a family. And Satan said, you have done. That's it right there. You have done it. So this is a very heavy discussion we're having right now because this is the basic building block. And I see a lot of wisdom in that story, in that anecdote, in that if you can effectively undermine the foundations of family, the community is done for. And that's what the young brother is saying that's happened to us. How to reverse it, I think, I hear what Minister Leo is saying in that we have to prioritize certain family structural forms above others. I understand that. However, when it comes to looking at Pan-Africanism globally, in Hausa land and in Yoruba land, which is the majority, 2/3 of Nigeria, there is a preponderance of females. And that's why it is almost the norm among the Yoruba to take more than one wife. It's almost the norm. And I'm not talking about Yoruba Muslims, Yoruba. Yeah. It is the norm to have two fella, remember, 28. This is something that is, if you have the money, you do. Now, in the West here, we have two things gonna clash. We have a situation where women will say, you want to practice polygyny? Well, I will practice polyandry. You want to do this? I will. What about, how do you feel about that? So now, here's the school curriculum having to adjust to teaching polyandry. What do you say to that?
School teaching polyandry.
Polyandry, not polyamory. That's another step. That's another step. Yeah, a woman with multiple husbands at the same time, not serially. Well, I mean, a feminist could, out of perversity, a feminist can say to you, well, if you want to teach polygyny as a norm, the most you can come back with is polyandry isn't a norm, it's relegated to very few societies. That's the most you can tell them.
I mean, may I offer something then, or some solutions to stuff? I think one of the things we should try to do as a collective is push forward the most constructive ideas we have. So you put the most constructive idea forward, and you don't force people to follow them, but you know that we've pushed this forward. So if you choose to go against it, then this is on you. But
the funding, Raven, the funding. If the radical vegans say, look, we are not funding any school canteen that serves meat or fish or dairy. Or the feminists say, we're not funding any school that teaches a man can have more than one wife.
Okay, now let's take each point. I'm a vegetarian. Okay. You eat halal meat, and his brother eats fish, and brother might eat meat, I don't know, right? The brother mentioned the word packed lunch. Okay. So if we have a collective consensus, like what kind of dish can the most cultures eat? So technically a Muslim can eat vegan, and the vegetarian can't eat vegan. Yeah. So but you also are allowed to bring your own packed lunch, right? Mm-hmm. So already that could be the easy solution.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So now that was the first challenge we're given. The second challenge, what would you say about the radical feminists saying? What about polygamy?
Marriage, marital structures, family structures.
So I say so right now in the school, I think one thing that the brother said is they're teaching about these concepts, and the value in it. So I say these are the taught values and the reasons behind it. But what an individual does is their own prerogative. Like if someone's going to practice being homosexual, they're going to practice. They're going to practice.
I was going to come to that because there is a body of African thought that's surfacing. There has always been homosexuality in African cultures. It has been not celebrated, but
it's happened.
It's been allowed, and people do not look it's not frowned upon. And I confess that I don't know enough about this subject. Okay. But if they say, look, the pink pound is powerful. Right. We want to invest in your school, so we want that brand of family as an alternative family structure being taught. What say you?
I have, amongst the black collectors, there's a movement called the same gender loving movement, right?
But that's niche. That's for them only.
As in black, so
yeah.
there are black homosexuals
who
refer themselves as same gender loving to separate themselves from the gay movement because they feel the gay movement is discriminatory and so forth, right? I would say that even when I hear black homosexuals, same gender loving speak, they are no time saying that homosexuality is something they push for a collective. They say that they find themselves attracted to the same sex and they can't help themselves, but they support the concept of family and they see the value of undermining the man when it comes to the woman. So unless you can show me like a gay movement or a same gender loving movement who's quote unquote woke, right, who actually push for that, I've never seen it.
I have met black lesbians who are woke.
Okay, and
actually quite a few. But they will part company with me regarding our domestic lifestyle.
Right.
Now, as far as they're concerned, I am free to do what I want.
Yes.
But I cannot have an opinion on what they're doing. And from their point of view, I see why they would say that. Right. Because the way that I feel about women is the way a lesbian feels about women.
Yeah.
I can't understand it, but they're not going to be making that up.
No.
The problem is they're not. Why would they pretend
something has happened to make them feel, and we don't understand it yet. I get it.
So
right?
Exactly.
Well, I run a collective, right? And I analyze things that cause black people the most anxiety, and I put it down to 3 factions, right? Miscegenation, all the forms of homosexuality, and religion.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
Is it because, perhaps, and I troubleshoot these things, is it because, take for example, I'm going to use the analogy of traditional African religion. Traditional African religion has had a bad rap because ever since the colonial period, it has been relegated. Because it has been sidelined and pushed underground, charlatans have taken over its leadership with their, what I call, priestcraft. Is it perhaps, using that analogy of traditional African religion, what has become of it, is it that homosexuality for centuries has been so oppressed by Abrahamic faiths and others that their behavior has become, as you described? How did you describe it? In not very flattering terms. You said you said that the behavior is
high anxiety.
Some words. Basically, what you were saying is it's not their behavior is questionable. Some of what they do is questionable. Unless I misunderstood you.
I mean, where I was going was there's topics that cause black people most anxiety, and it almost makes communication impossible. In the collectors I run, we don't talk about these topics. Because if we're trying to build a bridge...
So that was my point. Is it that because of the way they have been cornered, is this the reason why they have anxiety? Is the anxiety because, we mainstream society treat homosexuals?
When I say anxiety, the anxiety doesn't necessarily come from the same gender loving community. It actually comes from the people who might disagree to the lifestyle or their so-called choice. Does that make sense? So in order to stop the same gender loving person and the woke person arguing, we have rules that we don't talk about sexuality, we just build the bridge.
But if you're doing a school and you're talking about domestic situations, it's gonna, like the situation with the Muslims in the north, and that's why it's gonna come up.
And that's why I have to use the concept of RE teaching. An RE teacher will teach you about Islam, the history of how it happened, but at no point will they tell you to be a Muslim. So if you want to talk about what is socially happening in the world, we have to give the data like what do we know about homosexuality and how it's practiced and so forth. But we don't have to say now, let's all be homosexual.
No, you're not going to go that. You're not going to. Well, I hope not. No, you're not going to go that far. But what's going to happen is this: you will always get an element of Christians who would say the very nature implicit in Islam is a negation of my faith, and therefore the very existential quality of Islam is inimical to Christianity. It says Christ didn't die on a cross. It says Christ isn't the Son of God, and it said that Mary, Jesus is not, God's not Jesus' father. So, a Jew can turn and say, regarding Christians, the very existence of the religion is a standing is a perpetual threat to our existence, because you are telling us that we killed the most important figure in your religion. Now, people could do that when they have power. When they have enough power, they could turn on each other like that. Now, what I know is when groups are small, you get eco-warriors. Eco-warriors will be strident because they need to make their mark, and I support them. I know what they're doing. It's their time to be heard. They will be strident. And because of their stridency, they will attract people who are not really invested in the movement, but they rent a mob. You get your rent a mob everywhere. With homosexuals and gay movement, you'll get the same thing. When any movement is oppressed, sidelined, marginalized, when it tries to raise its head above the parapet, it becomes strident. It starts fighting back. And in fighting back, the pendulum swings from one extreme to the other. So you might see them doing things on the tube that a heterosexual couple might not do, but they're making a point. How do we process that in the school that we're teaching, that our children are now going to Kew Gardens? This is our school. We're taking a party of, I don't know, 7-year-olds to Kew Gardens. On the overground, one of my favorite trains, I'll give it a plug because Ken Livingston brought the overground, so we love the overground. So on the overground, you have a homosexual couple making out. Not fully, but beyond, a bit much, yeah. Now, the children saying, sir, miss, that's what we called teachers in my day. What's that? How do we explain that? Well, do we disapprove? Can we disapprove?
No, so I would say that we want to teach everything as something that's to be studied, right?
Right.
So
okay.
So because it's a form of study, we explain things to the best of our knowledge, but we don't want to interject any kind of bias. You know what I'm saying?
How do you really do that? Okay. Well, I was going to say,
I would say
let's have a case study. No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Okay. Yeah.
How do you? I mean, all right. I'm a child. So what's that? What's going on over there? What's that? Well, why are they doing that, sir?
Here's my answer to your question.
It's not nice, is it, sir? Maybe. It's not nice, is it?
But what
are they doing? I don't like that.
In these particular institutes,
any Oscars soon? No.
In these particular institutes that the brother's talking about, I'm assuming it's topic based.
Yeah.
Right. Meaning that.
What will be your answer? I want your exact answer to me.
Well, the answer.
I've case studied you. Come on.
I would say that I'm not qualified to give that opinion.
You just say that to the 7-year-olds.
Here's why I would say it. Right. There's going to be there's a biologist, right? Mm-hmm. Right, and then there's an IT developer. Now, if a kid goes up to the IT developer and goes, "How do you grow pears?" He'll go talk to the biologist, right?
Yeah, in primary school you don't have specialist chemistry teacher about it. In primary school the teacher teaches everything.
I'm not too sure if
I've got you. You see, you wish I'd used a secondary school, didn't you? But I've used a primary school, so you teach everything. You're teaching all the subjects.
Right. So, the other thing you can do is the information you have, right? You try to tell what has been happening without free from bias and free from scrutiny. That's the other thing you can do. Does that make sense? So
I've given you I was the child just now. I'm still the child now.
Yes.
How would you answer? And now there are others joining me, or a bunch of them. How would you answer these children?
Why they kiss each other?
No, what they're going for? They're not just kissing.
On the train?
Yeah.
Well, that's against the law. I mean.
No, it's not. It's not.
Is it not?
Oh, but no, I'm trying to tirade into the question. Hey, you letting me get away.
Right,
okay.
Well, I can come in like.
Go ahead.
I like letting people have their last word. So basically, you're saying the scenario, right? Say you're on a London overground.
Best train in England. Go on.
Wherever it's going, if it's going hybrid, Islington, wherever. And you're saying that you have like children going somewhere, and then you basically see a homosexual. Right. All you really got to say to them is confer that with your parents, because it is not in our policy to basically
discuss that.
That's good. I'll agree with that.
Simple. And I could even go a step further, and I'll basically say, look,
that makes those children suspicious.
No, it doesn't.
You make them you wear them out.
I'm not.
If you think about it,
they're thinking the worst now.
He's keeping his job.
I know. No, but it's his school. No, it's his school. No, but the school belongs to him. He's sorry he started this school now. You wish I hadn't built that school, right?
Wait. Oh, don't worry.
It's your school.
No, basically, this is what I'm saying. Is because I'm starting to become like a level 3 football coach, right? So, based off safeguarding of children, it says that you have to report to someone else. So that could be a welfare officer or a club welfare officer. You understand? So there's two ways you could go about it. You could say, talk to your parents about it, or because they are not qualified to basically speak about it, and confer with your parents about that. Or we could have a welfare officer who is qualified to basically speak about it, and you could basically get advice from that welfare officer to basically tell the child what step is next. But in my humble opinion, what I would do is I would take, because they're relatively young, I think that's the parents' job, it's not the school's job.
Can I say something? So the kids are going to go home, because the teacher ain't giving them any sort of opinion, and their parents are either going to say, gay people are fine, or they're going to say, no, gay people are wrong.
Yeah. We can't enforce that. We can't enforce that on households, because every household has a
But you have a school with a policy.
With people of different opinions, based off of their families.
Yeah, so it's nothing.
But it's his school, and the school has a policy.
Yeah. So I can't enforce that. Like, say for example, if I do come with opinion, right, because we're such a correct world, right? If I say, for example, gay people are bad, right, and I basically go and say that, I could lose my job, my reputation could go down, and Ofsted...
No, it's your school, remember?
Yeah, I understand, but that's what I'm saying. So, it's not my place to say what we should be. Right? If they see it...
No, you're misunderstanding me. The school belongs to him.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You can teach whatever you want.
Yeah.
I hear you. But the thing is in the end of the day, there's going to be investors who will probably invest.
You see?
That's what you're talking about.
Pink pound. I told you about that.
I'm saying.
You see?
So,
well, we got some vegan pound, the pink pound, the homo.
I don't have the right to basically tell them, hey, this is what it is. It is what it is. Everyone has different.
Well, you have to establish what the investors want to, what will tolerate, won't tolerate, won't you? You have to establish that. Like, I'm not too familiar with the same gender loving argument too much.
Lisa, behave yourself. That's in case he does something wrong.
What
in case he does something wrong, happen to me in defense. Behave yourself.
Don't pay attention to here.
I didn't kill you, all right? Behave yourself. So, basically, I feel this is a very difficult subject because when you're discussing the continent of Africa, you have so many other kinds of lifestyles you're trying to squeeze into your school. And definitely something has got to give because you, Raven, use the analogy of language. If we have Kiswahili as an overarching language, some languages have got to give. And by that extension, by extending that definition, some forms of lifestyle will likewise have to give. Is that a poor analogy because language is not as intimately connected to humans as their sexual proclivities, basically.
What is it that you feel is going to be dropped?
All right, basically, I don't want to have to drop it like it's hot, but what I'm trying to say is the way most black people think, they're going to say, if we have to have a choice of teaching something that's going to be cut, we're cutting homosexuality and leaving polygamy. They're going to say that. Of course black people going to say that.
Of course.
But then,
I think you lose the whole ping pong.
But remember, if we're teaching the cultural element of why something happens, from far as we know, we're not saying what is or what isn't, is best or not worse. We say, here's what's practiced in this kind of thing. So in that area, it's more of like a geography or a humanities kind of lesson.
No, but will you allow, therefore, no, I'm saying it has to go more than that. No, you will have children who are coming to school with two dads or two moms.
Okay.
That's because that's the pink pound I'm talking about. People who are investors in your school will want their children to be taught Afrocentrism, but they happen to be gay.
Yeah.
What next?
So we have to control how we expose them to anything, because like, I'm coming from countryside. I know how to kill my food, you know what I'm saying? I know how to milk. I know how to do.
He sounds like that. You've been listening to me 10 minutes ago. That's exactly what I said.
No, I know how to kill my own food.
Oh, okay.
I know how to milk. I know how to milk a cow.
You're looking at your big brother right now.
I know, but like, I have bigger brothers as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you.
I have bigger
this
brothers as
is
well.
how I live.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like we all have a different way of living, and if you choose to let, if you choose to tolerate things like two dads coming in your school and doing whatever. That's the problem to me because like I don't want my child to be exposed.
No, the children aren't doing it.
I don't want my child
No, we're
to
not
be
going that
exposed
far.
to that.
We're not going, you hear? He doesn't, Mr. School owner, he doesn't want his children exposed to that. What say you? He's going to take back his pound.
Well, we will have to.
He's taking back his pound.
You have to discuss the age range of when.
I'm saying,
I mean, your children will be aware of homosexuality at a certain point, right?
I know, but like the way I'm living, will like the way I'm doing it, it will be patterned. There will be pattern in
How would you do it?
Like they just like don't care.
How would you do it?
But you know how to make them fish.
How would you teach? No. How would you teach? Your children are so.
Between you and your
children, countryman, your children have seen some homosexuality on the train, some a gay couple kissing on the train. They come up to you, Daddy, we have seen blah blah blah. How do you explain it to your children? They are 7-year-olds. Okay, even they are 9-year-olds. How do you explain to them?
I have no answer to that. I have no exact answer to that because like
that's a fair answer.
But who has the answer to that? Why? Like,
I certainly don't.
Why do
I'm trying to find the answer. I don't.
The same gender?
Because the school, that school. No, I don't want your school to be doomed before it starts. But I'm getting I'm getting a sense that the foundation is already very shaky. If you include all of these different kind alternative forms, I think
Never said I was included.
But you
What I
can't
said,
then you're in trouble.
Unless it's a private school.
let me explain. Right? What I'm saying is this.
I'm still liking your school.
Alright, is African, alright, so is African, like, African culture, right? Was homosexuality?
That's now just said that.
Was it yes or no?
There is now a body of teaching.
I've seen no
There's
documentation.
You've seen this thing.
Some stuff maybe in Egypt. I might have seen some.
No, but there's a body of teaching that says throughout the continent there have been examples enough to say that it's not an aberration. And that to me, where's my bag?
Well, I think,
no, mine is.
the concept is it's not to demonize.
Yeah, go on.
No demonization or promotion.
No.
Yeah, it's you teach what you know. So we don't know why men like men and why women like women.
And the parents, the two parents, the homosexual couple fathers come and say to the school, I don't like that we are being taught and as if we are an alternative when we are a lifestyle. We don't like that.
That's two strategies. Either you always defend, or you take risks. And when you allow risks to come in, that's why things start to get fucked up. Because like you have the Sudanese people, they're always defending very low. Very tall, very dark. They're defending low. They're expecting you to talk. All this kind of, and then you have Senegalese people.
Explain again. I didn't get your point. Can you repeat that? Yeah, I didn't understand.
Like you feel like they just
Senegal.
No, let him talk.
For example, you have Senegalese people, and I'm from Senegal, and you have Sudanese people.
Okay.
We have the same
physiognomy.
But like we're not the same because like we are letting things happening in Senegal. In Sudan, they kill it straight away. They're killing it straight away. And in Senegal,
do you mean
in Senegal, we're letting things happening, and then stuff are getting fucked up. In Sudan,
do you
kill
mean
it straight away.
In
Sudan, they kill it straight away.
I thought you can. Is it that you mean the Sudanese are more conservative?
Exactly. They kill it straight away when it comes.
South Sudanese.
So like,
for example,
the way they move, like they come to like a
why do you laugh?
Like
laughing.
like an algae, like a seaweed, maybe.
Yes.
Like a seaweed.
I like it. I like how we talk.
You know what I'm saying?
But let me ask you this.
I'm telling you.
Money. Let me ask you this.
Senegalese people.
Wait a minute. South Sudanese in the cattle camp, they walk naked.
Yeah.
Completely new.
Yeah.
So why you say they are conservative? They're conservative in some ways, but not in some ways.
Yeah, but like
so then your point cannot be holding completely.
They're conservative in their own framework.
In some ways they're conservative.
No, I'm saying
and
even if they're naked,
yeah,
that's their culture. Within their cultural
context. At the same time, nobody the same name Senegali. You're Wolof.
Serer.
Yeah, Serer. What's your surname?
Abdoulaye Diouf.
Diouf? Yeah, Diouf Serer.
My
definitely.
my family ruled over a country for 300
I know,
years.
Sin Salou, I know, Sin Salou. I know, I've been there. Now, if you think, la majorité des Serrans sont Wolofisés aujourd'hui. The majority of them are like Wolof.
Okay, yeah.
You speak Serer?
Bit.
I know you can't speak Serer, you speak Wolof. Let me tell you, the problem is this. In every country, what you see is not what is always apparent, is not what you are seeing. Senegalese, man and woman, Wolof, will sit together like this, Assalamu alaikum, to talk. It doesn't mean they are flirtatious. It's just, I know what he's talking about. The culture of Senegal seems very laid back. It seems very liberal. But do not misunderstand that. And at the same time, what he said is true. The nakedness of the South Sudanese should not be misunderstood.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think, and in fact, let me tell you another point. We're going off the subject quickly because I like, this is my kind of subject. Your people and the Dinka.
That's the only kind of subject you like, actually.
L'anthropologie.
Only kind of, yeah, exactly.
Your people are related from the Sahara.
Okay.
In historical terms, you know why the Serer are tall and black, like Abdou Diouf, president before, and the Dinka people are tall? Originally, they lived in where is today the Sahara. As the Sahara became dry, your people moved towards the Fleuve Senegal or the Niger, and the Dinka, the Serer, Dinka, the Nuer, and the Shuruk moved towards the Nile. So they split long time ago in history, but they are all, in your old history, you are related.
I need to research about that, but like,
I will we should talk about this after, because nobody, I'm the first person who's done the research, nobody has done it. Sheikh Anta Diop, your historian, he made mistakes. Sheikh Anta Diop is about the best person to explain this, but he didn't go far enough. Because he didn't go far enough. Because he had too much. He was a politician. He had a lot doing. That man was writing books. He was a nuclear physicist. He was a politician. He was an anthropologist. He had too many things doing. Anyway, back to the point. What we are saying is this: we're trying to have a Pan-African school. We're trying to teach. Okay, come on.
Here's what I'm going to come to. I think possibly the issue is in setting up a school in the UK is that you're going to have to accept some of these principles or not. Especially if it's going to be a state school, if it's going to be a private school, even so you have to accept the principles of a private school. You can't discriminate, you're going to have all people. So you have to actually be willing to accept a lot of these things. Now, the difference is if you set the school up around an idea or an ideology, and I think that is possibly where we're heading more. Where we have several different schools with several different ideologies that broadly consist of Pan-African ideas. Bigger, that broadly consists of Pan-African ideas. And if you do that as private schools, in the same way the Jewish community are able to have their little, I can't remember what their schools are called. They have their schools in which there are very specific curriculums that even taught there, which could be anti-homosexual, etc., if that's what that school wants. And then there could be an LGBT-friendly school that will teach things from that perspective. But the idea of us being able to...
And he's going to own all these schools. So under the rubric of, let's say, the Pan-African institution, there'll be one dedicated for gays, one for vegans.
I'm just trying to...
We're developing your idea. We're helping you out.
Ask one question.
Go ahead.
Can you please, for anyone else who's just joining or whatever else, can you just sum up the subject matter?
Okay. I mean, pretty much so
versus,
far...
what is it? If you could put a title.
It started with reparations.
It started with reparations.
Then we said, then we moved from, now we're still connected, we moved from reparations to say, we don't want to rely on reparations, we want to do for self. And the brother said the cornerstone for the future, it's not going to happen now, is the children, ergo schools. Brother Leo came and said, on top of that, the schools need to be able to feed themselves, we need land. So, but we got restricting the discussion to schools.
And
now we said the ethos underpinning a Pan-African school. What will we allow in and what must be disallowed? And that's where we run aground.
Okay, so somebody else wants something to come in?
The ping pong.
Okay.
A bunch of black Afrocentric homosexuals funding the school.
This thing.
Yeah, come on, fix it.
You can have these several schools.
The ping pong, they call it the ping pong.
Oh, do they?
That's what
I
they
thought
call
you
it.
were
That's how
mocking it.
powerful they are. No, that is how powerful
So
their
they've got
money
a
is.
name.
Yeah. They're
kidding
powerful.
me?
Oh, so,
Can you see how
what did he
anything-
say? Pink
Pound,
pound.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I
Pound
didn't
sterling.
get
Sterling.
I thought first I thought you said pig.
The pig.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Pound.
Okay.
No, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm calling it what they call it. So what I'm saying is also
term
the
for it,
the vegan lobby is becoming
powerful
power by day.
Yeah.
So you've got, and some of them are behaving the same way the eco warriors are behaving. And in my way.
Sorry, who's saying the pig pound? That's
Let's look at
or the Pan-Africanists?
No, that's an old,
okay.
that's a
I mean,
mainstream term for the
No,
for
because
the
you said
power.
Pan-Africanist, then you said pig.
No,
It's mainstream. It's
We're
mainstream.
back to. By the way, I gotta run soon. I gotta
Yeah, I
go.
got.
What time is it?
As well, myself.
What time? Does anybody got
It's
time?
almost 6.
I gotta go.
Yeah,
You're
10 to 6.
You're on mad. I gotta go cook my own food. Jerry Jeff White. Lovely to meet you, man.
But yeah, I mean, I suppose. Yeah, so this is what I was going to come with because I was going to say, for my. He was basically posing all the different threats and the possibilities that pose setting up a Pan-African school. And I said, I think the threat is, if you want to set up a Pan-African school here in the UK, unless it's a private school, you're always going to have all of these threats, you can have different things. And also, you have to, you also have to have a basis of understanding within that school. So for example, if there is a Pan-Africanist school of a Garveyite philosophy, right? There's an understanding that the parents who are sending that school have that philosophy. So they probably won't have as many arguments of saying, you know, we want to see LGBT stuff represented and so on and so forth, because it has a specific ideology for that school. However, majority of Garveyites in this country don't have as much money to be able to fund this sort of school privately and stuff like that.
What's over there, bro?
This is your bag, yeah.
Brothers, sorry to interrupt, but I have to cook for myself.
You just show me where to get these guns, man. Where did you get this one? This came straight from Senegal, right?
Nah, this is not Yoruba. Nigeria. This is Yoruba.
That is bad.
Gentlemen,
I should have told by
pleasure.
that.
I gotta run. I'll see you all soon. Thank you so much.
So yeah, I would say you have to do that around a specific school, but you have to accept that community will have to put their hands in their pocket to fund the school. And this is why I'd say economics ends up becoming the basis on which you have to start off any sort of separation attempt, because these schools aren't going to fund themselves. Everything
How
from
is
the
it going to
government.
work and how long is it going to last?
What, school?
Yeah, because if you look at how quick this thing has come up.
Yeah.
I was hearing today on the live feed that a woman was saying, right now as we're speaking in England, they've got unisex toilets in schools.
Yeah.
That's true?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Some schools. I don't know for sure, but some people have made this claim.
Right? So
I'm not in the schools.
I'm kind of like, okay, so they're really pushing this thing.
Yeah.
So whatever you get, it looked like they're going to come out somehow tell you you're trying to mess up the children's head, because the children should be, you know, open to or exposed to all different kind of things. Do you understand? Yes, my brother, listen. Do you see what I'm saying?
100%. And I think that's why it's pressing. But I think what people, and this is why what Danjuma was saying was so important in regards to the pink pound and the fact that that whole thing has been studied economically, is because they actually have a thing called Stonewall, which is their main, I think the main lobby group they have. And the fact that they have a main lobby group, now, who's lobbying for black issues like that? So when you see all these rainbow things popping up, Barclays rainbow, everything rainbow, that's not by accident. It's not that. It's the fact that these lobby groups have said these 3 months or whatever it is, we're designating towards LGBT issues, and they have had the power to push that. So this is why I say black betterment and Pan-Africanism is so important, and why I say as black people we need to not argue so much about these little things and actually understand.
You said Pan-Africanism.
Yeah, I say Pan-Africanism because that's a
What
political
about
ideology.
those who were in the Pan-African community that pushing the pink pound? Wasn't that what he was saying?
That's what he was bringing. Yeah, he was saying.
He was saying that, but that's another conversation.
Okay,
I'll say
okay.
what I'm trying to say is that in order to organise around one sort of lobby
Were you
group
pushing that too?
and to push your arguments and to argue that this year for Black History Month everything's going to be black. You're going to put blackness everywhere, blah blah blah. We don't have the power to do that because we don't have the unity to do that. Organise and centralise is the main-ish thing that Marcus Garvey put forward with Pan-Africanism. Organise your community and centralise your power basis. For whatever reason, we find a way to separate and argue.
A lot of people that follow, let's say, Marcus Garvey, even Elijah Muhammad and whoever else, his paradigm was totally different. Not just that, internet has changed everything.
True.
So any youth squaring up, they're being fed by you, but then the internet and everything's just changed. To be honest, a lot of the movements I'm seeing, they're not up to date.
Old school.
So, I mean, I'm not quite sure obviously Marcus Garvey's basic principles still stand regardless.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't seen nothing really.
For the modern era. Yeah, I mean,
because I feel here's the problem. That's a moral issue.
Shall I tell you what I personally think it is? I personally think that a lot of people who nowadays espouse Garvey aren't necessarily well read or read up efficiently on him. Because the stuff that Marcus Garvey says in his books and his writings, and the stuff you see a lot of prominent Garveyites doing in the public eye, they're conflating. They're two opposite things. Garvey does talk about being quiet, right? Don't talk about burning down the system, not publicly. Never do that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? You probably don't get that from Garveyites, right? You probably get a probably very opposite thing. He talks about organising as a community, building your wealth as a community.
Most of them have been that.
Being 100%, working with your government to a certain extent, right? So you pay your taxes and you take care of your own community within that.
That's the main thing I got from that. Do for self.
100% do for self. Now, like you're saying, we're in the modern era. The issue is, I think, is about not necessarily our ability to understand Garvey or follow what Garvey's doing, but issue to update it to the modern economic principles that we're facing today, and actually to get our young, and actually to be able to offer jobs and opportunities to our young people. Do you know what I mean? So I think those are main things. What Garvey was able to do, that's none of the followers are able to do, is offer jobs. He owned businesses. There's not many Garveyites these days that own businesses. So I think, so I think that is a main thing that we have to start doing, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think what Uncle was doing, he was throwing in like some of the challenges that I face. But I think he was taking it down to like maybe is it kindergarten or I don't know the level.
Yes, yeah.
I was thinking more of an institute where like there's particular themes and classes. Yeah. Rather than a universal teacher. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I saw that.
Yes, definitely.
But I think what were you talking? Because you were going somewhere. I think you were actually going somewhere. Yeah, as in like you were talking about what black people need and the solution, and then I think you got to this educating yourself, right? And obviously, as you got there, Uncle threw in some things. So carry on building. What were you saying?
Yeah. So because obviously with the schools, like I said, I think Leo Mohammed was actually here when we were speaking. We got to understand about first. We got to look at the major problems that's happening here in the UK, or even in the world. First start for the UK, right? Because we got to start small and big, right? So what I'm basically saying is, we clearly have a big mental health problem in the black community. So that needs to be addressed about how to keep the mind strong versus situations, things of that nature. That will be included in the school curriculum. The relations improving the relations between the black woman and the black man.
So So we were breaking down so that's what I was trying. We were actually breaking down particular classes, themes that will benefit black people, and we were establishing what would that theme be called. What is that class called? But I think it's this, and I think that's when Uncle threw in what about polygamy and homosexuality and stuff, right? So but he's been around. He knows the kind of things you're going to come up with, right? So I was bringing up finance. Funny enough, before I forget, I'm trying to get like a solution circle going, right? Where black people sit around, over where IC3 is. You know with the brother
IC3, that's like the
seats and things.
Chairs.
So
I'm looking to do something where black people sit in a circle and we discuss solutions. Yeah, and there's some people who've got ideas, like some people at banks and partners and all other stuff, right? And we sit down and we try to work. So unlike what there was a disgruntled brother here who was saying, it's not gonna work. We don't really want to have that kind of interaction. We want to be like very solution-based, right? Solution-led. So hopefully, maybe we next week we're having one, right? I'm trying to set it up.
Next Sunday?
Next Sunday.
I thought it was this week.
No, the thing is we can, yeah. But next week, the particular theme, a brother called Yaya, he wants to talk about actual partner scheme he's got going, yeah. And next week, so I want to get all the people figuring it. And obviously, Leon has to know what they're doing, yeah. But let me, you man, come here for a minute.
Do you want to explain?
Let me explain, yeah. Brother,
partner itself,
come here just for a sec, right? Let's discuss a new topic.
Content over everything. From your melody. Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Basically, what I'm saying is, over where EC3s, I'm trying to sit something out where black people sit around the chairs, right, and discuss solutions to topics, right. Next week, we're trying to set up a discussion of partners and